thing. DiC never goes for the actual moral of the story. They pick something random. So I think they would pick something like, ghosts can be pretty scary, huh? But it's okay, ghosts aren't real. If you ever feel scared by a ghost, try lighting some candles and a nightlight and have a nice warm glass of cocoa. I murdered Audrey.
Welcome to Sailor Moon Therapy Hour. We are your hosts, Audrey.
And I'm Allison. And we are not therapists. We just watch anime.
That is correct.
And Audrey, tell us what's unusual about this episode. So no, this isn't the unusual episode. Don't ignore it. This is a normal episode. Tell us what happened in this episode. What was the name of this episode?
No, but it is unusual. First of all, it is kind of a weird episode. We watched.
It was.
What was this called? It was like the Summer, Beach, and Ghosts.
The dub was called The Summer, the Beach, Youth, and Ghosts, which is a lot of concepts.
I forgot youth.
And then there isn't, I don't know what actually that's the sub name, and I don't know if there wasn't a dub in the original DiC.
Yeah, so that is.
They skipped this episode. They said no thank you. They moved on to the next episode. So we're doing something a little unusual because we both watched very similar versions of the episode.
We did.
What did you watch? You watched the...
So I watched the recent dub. Yeah, by Viz Media.
The recent English dub,
mm-hmm.
which is, as far as we know, very, very similar to the Viz sub, which is the version we've been watching as well. So we're going to see if there's any notable differences, but we suspect it'll be pretty much the same, just with different voice actors.
Yeah, I have a feeling that there's not a whole lot that they would have changed in this. They seem to stay fairly faithful. But of course, we will test that theory now.
Yeah. And then we're also going to try and answer the mystery of why did DiC decide that this episode should be cut? And frankly, I already have a suspicion.
Same.
And I thought it was going to be like bathing suits or like monsters. And then watching the episode, I was like, it could have been the child abuse.
That's what
that was fun. But to be honest, or the weird religion stuff happening, to be honest, I think it was just because this was very much a filler episode. And it's not really related to anything, and it's our first non-Negaverse episode.
Oh my god, you're right. That's why it felt weird.
Because it was like a Halloween special. It's totally unrelated.
I wonder if that's what it was, actually. We'll have to... I don't know. I didn't bother looking it up.
That would be my guess. They wanted to hurry along to get the next Sailor Scout. Because we're getting closer.
Oh, to
Jupiter.
Oh, yeah. We're in what is it, 5 episodes from now?
Yeah, so this was episode 20, and she's in episode 25.
Oh my god, literally! Ah! And so then, but Nephrite's still sticking around, I think, past...
Yeah, because I think he interacts with her a couple times.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that in my flashback childhood memories, was that I was like, oh, they're cute.
I think that they're shipped, aren't they?
Yeah, I thought they were shipped. He's also shipped with Molly, which I'd forgotten, so there's some interesting vibes there, but
I don't know why I think it's okay for Jupiter to be with him, because she is also still a child. Maybe it's because she's tall in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, that's
I think that might be part of it. They have a past universe history.
There we go. So that makes it okay.
Folks, if an older person tells you have a past universe history together, still maybe wait till age of consent.
Fucking run. Call the police.
Actually, run a little faster.
Yeah. Call the police. So, speaking of weirdness, and then I'll get into the summary in just a second. Okay. To piggyback on your theory, I do think that I think it's a combination. The reason why Big DiC didn't want us to see this in the 90s, early 2000s, I think it's because of the child abuse. I just don't know how they were gonna fix that. It was so creepy.
I don't know, because it was very creepy, and yet I was trying to say if it wasn't anything weirder than we've seen in some of these other episodes, but
this one
I don't
felt
know.
It felt more.
The funny thing was, in some ways, it was very mild. and had this happy resolution. We should really get into the episode,
Yeah,
but I
we
will just say that like the visuals were somehow so disturbing. Like it felt like worse things were happening than what was happening on the screen.
Yes. And then just like the single
Like
tear.
some kind of metaphor.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
All right. So
creepy.
quick summary. What's the very short summary of what happens?
Yes. The very short summary is that the Sailor Scouts are going on vacation / training holiday, according to Luna.
Training mission.
Yeah. Which they never really
They don't do
get
any
to.
training.
They don't do
Yeah,
any
they do
at
no
all.
training.
And so they have taken a train to, I don't know, some pretty place. It actually did look like it was pretty. I wonder if that's like a real place in Japan.
To the beach.
To the beach, yeah. And they get to this mansion that they're staying at.
Short summary. We'll go back and do the long
Okay,
one.
yeah. Sorry. So they're staying at a creepy mansion, and everybody's kind of like spooked or whatever. Meanwhile,
there's a ghost.
The owner, yeah, there's like a ghost in the mansion. I think is he the owner and his daughter?
I couldn't figure out the relationships of who was there, but there's a ghost, some creepy servants, something weird happening with a little girl and her dad, and they're trying to solve the mystery. It's like a Scooby-Doo episode. And they solve it, and that's it.
You are way better at the short summary than I am. My brain requires me to add details.
Well, the details are the interesting part. But, this is the Scooby-Doo episode of Sailor Moon.
Yes.
Did Scooby-Doo exist when Sailor Moon was out? So.
Well, Scooby-Doo's been out since like the 60s, 70s.
Right. So, yeah. So maybe it was a reference, maybe not.
So this might have even been inspired. And, speaking of Scooby-Doo, I was expecting them to rip the masks off of the people who work in the hotel. Because here's the thing about, okay, now that we've got the summary out of the way, the people at the hotel are like dressed up as monsters.
Yeah, it's not explained. It's sort of explained. We got to get to that. Yeah, and I will say that I say it's a Scooby-Doo episode, but I do also feel like I've seen this kind of, you go, like in Japanese anime and manga, like the idea of you go on vacation and you stay at a vacation-y inn and it's haunted feels like it's something I've seen repeatedly.
Yeah.
Like that is some kind of like cultural touchstone there.
Interesting. I would totally, that sounds like a fun vacation to me if you get to solve it.
Right. And then people are trying to murder you. No. That's also
I don't want to like get murdered, but like if some vacation rental place wants to put on like kind of like a murder mystery vacation rental, I'd be down. I'd pay for that.
Yeah. So how does the episode start?
So, and again, we're really testing my memory of having just watched this an hour ago.
This is an exam. There will be a grade. Oh, God. And if you don't pass, I'm going to pull this lever and drop you through the floor.
No!
To the shark tank.
Somehow, and I don't know how that works across the distance. Like, I think it's a little creepy that you've got access to the floors of my house from where you are.
I sent what was it? Task Bunny people over there, not sponsored.
Yeah, Task Rabbit.
That's what it is. We're getting way off topic, but I watched a very shitty Christmas movie, and they had clearly been paid by TaskRabbit because they name dropped them like 37 times.
That was
and it got funnier
every time. Single all the way.
Yeah, which was like kind of good, but also very, very bad.
Yes. I would have just a shitty Lifetime style Christmas movie podcast. Like I absolutely would.
I was gonna say that's for our other podcast where we watch bad Hallmark style movies. Let's start it. Not right now though.
I actually do kind of want to do that. But okay, we're still in the middle of the Sailor Moon podcast.
Yes. How did the episode start?
They arrive on a train.
They do. They show up on a train at the beach. And it's Sailor Moon, Usagi, Rei, and Ami. And they're like, I'm so sad that Molly couldn't come. And then Luna's like, it's a training mission. And that's when we find out it's a training mission. But we don't see any training, so.
We never speak of it again. After Luna says it's a training mission.
I think that might have only been brought up to explain why Molly wasn't there. Not like they ever bring Molly to do anything with them. Like, have we ever seen Rei, Ami, Sailor Moon and Molly hanging out. I don't
No.
feel like we have.
I don't think we have yet.
So
I don't
that's
know
why
that
we
we
didn't bring
ever
Molly,
will.
because they aren't friends.
Because as soon as we bring in Jupiter and then especially Venus, like I'm pretty sure we just drop Molly as a friend.
Yeah, she's gonna fade back into the bushes.
Yeah. So I did write that Luna's voice does not work for me in the dub. And that Ray's
I forgot how cute Luna's sub voice is.
Yeah.
So.
Her dub voice, like, I don't even know how to describe it besides basic. Like, it was
Mary
not
Poppins.
for me.
Oh no, it's a different dub. That's right, because you have a different
Yeah.
set of dub voices than we're used to.
Yeah.
This is the modern dub does have better voices sometimes, but
it's kind of a weird mix. Like, I don't know about the casting choices. So, like, Luna's voice just feels boring and, like, doesn't fit her personality to me. And then Ray's voice, which at first I liked because hers is very sultry, smooth, like, sexy voice. But then her voice next to the kind of more childlike Usagi voice, and then, like, Ami's actually sounds like her original voice actor in the original dub, except without, but without the weird accent. So, like, that woman,
okay, that could
not doing an accent. Like, that's kind of what Ami sounds like.
Not doing the strange British vibe.
I mean, for all I know, and of course I didn't bother looking this up, it could be the same woman. I doubt it. It's been like 30 years.
Yeah.
But Ray's voice next,
we brought her back.
Ray's voice next to them sounds like they're all hanging out with their teacher. Like, she just sounds like too old for all of them.
Yeah. And, you know, I kind of hate when they push, like, the femme fatale thing for her too hard, because I don't really think that's what we're supposed to get out of her. Like, she's supposed to be a little more, like, elegant or mature, but not, like...
But she's not that mature.
In my head.
She's like...
Well, that's the thing. Exactly. That's why she and Serena fight constantly. Because they're not that mature.
Oh, yeah. Like, if she was actually mature, she wouldn't be fighting with her. She's like the 13-year-old that's like, I have an old soul. That's why I'm dating a 19-year-old. Like, no.
You were so correct. And you're like, no, honey, no.
Like, no, that's called grooming, darling. But
so something I find interesting is they said that Ray had booked them to stay at a pension house, which is not a phrase I'm familiar with. But I guess it's a vacation home. I don't know. And they were like, it's gonna be nice, right? Like, sure.
That makes so much sense, because there's one point where in the dub later, one of the guys, somebody says something about mansion, but in the subtitle, because I always have closed captions on anyway, it says pension, and I just thought that was a typo. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And then now that you said that,
you know, that you probably had the same subtitles that I had. They probably just used the subtitles.
Oh, that makes sense.
For both. And that's interesting. Yeah. Mansion makes more sense than pension, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what word they were going for there.
Interesting.
But I didn't understand it.
Maybe it was a typo.
So they're trying to get to the place and they get lost, and of course Serena and Ray are fighting.
We skipped over something.
Did we skip something?
There's something really important that I have to talk about.
Okay.
So Usagi's asking Ray, like, what this place is like, and Usagi's already off daydreaming about, like, how incredible this beach is gonna be. It's gonna be filled with all these hot guys.
Right.
And we, like, cut to, like, this, like, tanned, gorgeous version of her being served, like, a cocktail.
It kind of looks sunburned to me. Yeah. Like, in my camera, it was, like, red rather than tan, which I found very funny.
Oh, and mine, like, maybe you need to adjust the color settings on your monitor.
I think it might be my color balance, but I did find it very funny.
Yeah, because it was definitely, like, more, like, sun-kissed, like, tan. And then, like, Motoki / Andrew from the original dub, like, the game center guy is, like, serving her drinks, and she's like, oh, Andrew. Well, not Andrew, but Motoki. And then all of a sudden we see tuxedo mask, full tuxedo mask outfit, kite surfing in the water as he goes by.
And doesn't he do, like, a thumbs up at her or something like that?
Like, I literally wrote in, like, all caps, like, mood, tuxedo mask, kite surfing.
Yes. Big mood.
This was the best part of the episode.
You're right. I almost missed that, and it was the best part.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that's what she envisions her vacation
Yes,
as, her training
then
mission
you'll
as,
know.
and that does not happen.
No, clearly it doesn't happen. They actually immediately get lost in the woods, and their first mistake was that apparently they were listening to Usagi's directions. And I'm like, you know that this is not her strength. Why would you give her this task?
And I want to say that they, of course, they're fighting, and Serena and Ray are like, "It's your fault, it's your fault," and you can literally, we cut to Amy, and I feel like I could see her soul leaving her body. Like, this is the rest of my life forever. Because we've had so many episodes that are like, you guys need to get along and be mature. And Amy's taught them this lesson like 7 times. Yeah. And I think it's settling in, like, they're never going to learn. And I'm just going to be the mom forever.
Well, I do think I kind of.
And then it starts storming.
Yes. Because of course, how can we make it work? But side note on their dynamic, I wonder if that's going to change when Jupiter comes in. Because, like, maybe by adding a fourth.
I hope so. Jupiter can assist Amy in being the mediator.
Well, I mean, Amy's just not a very good mediator.
Well, she's not. That's part of the problem. Yeah. But, and then Luna just makes things worse, I feel like. That's like Luna's strength.
Yeah, especially after rewatching.
Luna's an antagonizer or something. Instigator.
Yeah, well, and that's why her voice didn't work for me. It felt like too mature, too boring. Like there was nothing. Like in the Japanese, she sounds like just like one of them, but also like has her own vibe.
Yes, agree.
And in this one, like
she's a little catty.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. I might have to like add it into the episode so y'all can hear. So it starts raining, and then Usagi gets scared by a small child in the forest who's just like picking flowers.
Well, yeah, she's like, and like there's a flash of lightning, and it's very.
She does.
And
look
then this kid she's got like purple eyes. Mm-hmm. She's like proto Saturn.
Yeah,
Sailor Saturn. She's got purple eyes, and she's holding flowers, and she's wearing like some sort of old fashioned like Japanese robes, so she looks kind of like, I guess, ghostly or just out of place.
Yeah, she looks weird, and her voice, oh my god, in the dub, it's like me trying to do a child's voice, like,
oh no, it was cute in the.
Is that what you do? I would love to play. Like, it's bad.
No, I don't like that. So yeah, that was bad. Okay, it was fine in the sub. And I guess she leads them through the rain to the mansion/pension, and
whichever.
They're greeted. This is where we meet the servants, employees of the mansion pension, who are
a werewolf,
like a vampire, a werewolf, and a Frankenstein.
A Frankenstein's monster.
I'm not sure she's a vampire. She might be a ghost.
I think she's supposed to be like a vampire ghost monster kind of thing. She's got like spiky ears.
Unclear.
She looks like pale blue almost, and with like yeah, I think it's a vampire. She's like a Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And
Serena is freaking out, and everyone else is taking this in stride. And
it drove me nuts.
Later on, at least in the sub, they say something like, yes, this is part of what brings people to our house.
Yeah.
Our costumes or whatever. Like that this is something like a themed thing they're doing. But they really don't get into it beyond that.
Yeah, they say the same thing in the dub.
So
I think the dub is like pretty much as possible, like almost word for word. But they don't say that for a little while.
But this was, yeah, no. And this was definitely the part where I was like, what? Oh, so it's a Scooby-Doo episode. Because that is something that would happen on Scooby-Doo.
Oh, that's true.
And yeah, everyone takes it in stride except for Serena, who's like, what the fuck is happening? She's freaked out.
Yeah. And nobody else is. Everybody's making fun of her. And I'm like, has nobody explained? Like, I need an explanation.
And she gets mad at Ray for booking this creepy mansion, and Ray's like, it was cheap. And you're like, I mean, also mood.
I wrote Ray is a frugal queen.
And we also meet the little girl's dad, who is also creepy looking and kind of pointy.
He's like,
and just get bad vibes.
A big box. Like, he's gigantic.
We get very bad vibes from him.
Yeah.
So that was concerning. And then they all go to bed. Or they go have I don't remember what they do.
So they sit down for dinner. That's when we see that, like, Usagi's like, why'd you book this place? And Ray's like, it was cheap. And they're serving dinner. And then they do think that they hear or see like a ghost. And Ray's like, oh, I just felt like a really intense power. But she's like, I don't think it was a
Mm-hmm.
ghost. Like, she doesn't think it's a ghost. Everybody else is like, ooh, spooky ghost. But like, and then it's clear also, I think in this moment is when we see that the people who work there are also kind of freaked out by the ghost.
Yeah, that was important, is that the people who work there are like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, and that's about when it became more endearing for me, that they're like dressed up as monsters, but they're super scared of a ghost.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah.
That was cute. And they kind of, I mean, reminded me of Sailor Moon, who's like, I'm a hero, but I'm super scared.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually get a moment like that later. So, and then we cut to like somewhere upstairs is where the father, okay, so this is where I just wrote child abuse
That's
question
fucking-
marks, because
Yeah.
he is hypnotizing his own daughter. He has this tiny little girl in this giant armchair, and he's like hovering over her with this coin that he's like running back and forth across her eyes, and he's just talking
Yeah,
about
on a string, the classic hypnotism thing.
and he's just talking about like, I can't remember what he says at this point, but he does have like an evil laugh, and it's weird.
Yeah, I feel like it was something like go to sleep and
Yeah.
then wake up or something. It
Oh
was
yeah,
very,
and
it
then
was
that's
like
when she
it was ambiguous.
and she looks hypnotized, but then has tears coming down her face.
Like, no, a
Oh
single
yeah, that was the
tear
single tear
comes
time.
down her
Yeah,
cheek.
later she gets
which
more.
was somehow more upsetting than like anything
Yeah.
else. Like, this is what we said. Like, he's not doing much as far as we can tell, but it was very
It's the
upsetting.
implication.
And yeah. So you're like, I don't like that.
Yeah, and the fact that she
Okay.
clearly hates it. Yeah. So now we cut to the next day. We are on the beach, and Usagi's like, oh, it's like a really private beach. And she thought they were going to be like hot boys
There aren't
and
hot
like
boys.
yachts and things.
Even though they explicitly said that the big selling point of the hotel was it had a private
Most
beach,
people
and
do
then
want
she
a
immediately
private one.
pictured tons of boys.
That's true.
I know, but then she immediately pictured tons of boys, and it was like, why would there be 3,000 boys on a private beach?
I never,
Like,
I
where
didn't
are
even,
they coming from?
I didn't catch that. But did you notice that the bathing suit that she's wearing is the one with the bows?
Yeah, the one from the previous episode where it had holes in it, so she glued bows over all the holes.
Yeah.
I caught that. I was so happy.
Yeah.
I was so happy. I was like, it's
So
back.
stinking cute. Really nice callback. Okay.
So they all run around and play in their bathing suits. Kind of one of those scenes.
Yeah.
Oh, but we cut to up on the cliff.
Oh yeah, the little girl is like watching. She's picking more flowers. I guess that's the only time she can get away from her dad. It's like out picking flowers and like watching them, and clearly like wants to be part of the fun
from like a cliff. And it honestly, for a minute, I was like, she's gonna jump.
Oh no,
that was not what was happening. It's very ominous.
One thing I did want to this whole episode is just ominousness, ominosity. I'm gonna make that up.
Ominosity.
Yeah. I do want to point out that once again, Serena is the one who makes sure that everybody has fun, because Ami has brought her books, like her, not just books, her textbooks to study on the beach. And Usagi's like, girl, like, you're only young once, let's have fun. And then Ray even agrees with her, and then they start playing like on the beach and stuff.
That was so cute, is that, yeah, she's like, studying's important, but having fun is really important too. And Ray and Luna are like, wow, she's making a really good point here. Yeah. And then Ami's like, yeah. And then they all go play. And it was like, that is like Serena's strength.
Exactly.
And it's so good. And it's actually thematically relevant, because we're going to have some stuff with Amy later.
Oh, that's a good
ties
point.
Into this.
Yeah.
I thought that was really neat.
And it's like, this is what she's good at, not directions. Let's play to our strengths here when assigning tasks for vacation.
Yes.
Although, to be fair, she was heading in the right direction.
You were in charge of the fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, they didn't get super lost.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So
maybe she was just drawing the little girl in distress. Like, her homing instincts were drawing her to that little girl.
Oh, maybe. I did find it interesting that, and so we're about to get into this, where Ami is the one who has the connection with the little girl, not Usagi. And it's usually Usagi who feels the connection with like the person.
But Ami has the biggest parallel, because Ami's the one who had, as we find out, the little girl's being pushed by her dad to do psychic stuff and be like amazing. And that's what Ami's parents pushing her to study really hard and be amazing. And then both of them being really lonely. And then it's really sweet.
Yeah, so like
It's like I like that
I'm
parallel that they connect in that
I'm
way.
trying to remember the timing, because I know that
What happens next?
I don't know because I only wrote 2 more things and they are not like plot points.
No.
But I do
Yeah.
know that I do know that Ami finds the little girl up on the cliff like later that day, and Ami is talking about how I used to be really lonely too because she's like, "Oh, like where are your friends?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't have any." So Ami's like, "That used to be me, like not that very long ago."
There's a scene too where because Ami's like, "Oh, how'd you know my name?" Because the little
That's what it
girl
was.
calls her by name, and the little girl's like, "I watched you guys from here all day
Yeah.
long," and I was like, "That was fucking creepy."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Serena's the clumsy one, Ray is the mature one, and Luna's the cat," and I was like, "Okay, that's fine." And I really like that Ami's like, "Yeah, maybe you should make friends with Serena because
Mhm.
Serena is really good at helping people have fun." And I was like,
Yeah.
because again, it's
Oh.
this parallel.
Yeah.
That's what helped Ami was making friends
Mhm.
with Serena, and then Ami's relating to this little girl, and I don't know, it was really cute.
Yeah. So I know that like and there's like a whole B
Oh,
plot. Oh, go ahead.
I remember this because the dad shows up and he's
Oh yeah.
like, I guess
Yeah.
mad that Ami is talking. She's like, I told you not to talk to strangers, which I mean, to be fair, yeah, probably don't talk to strangers, little girl. But and then he's like, I want all of you out of here now. And then we cut to like them not leaving. So I was like, it's nighttime, they're guests that you're in, like the whole vibe was odd, but
Yeah.
yeah, then they don't leave. And so
He
he
also
decides to use psychic powers to get rid of them.
he also drags his daughter off so hard that she's going, "Ow, you're hurting me, dad." Like
Oh,
father.
that was really
Yeah.
upsetting. "You're hurting me, you're hurting me."
Yeah. Ugh.
Really really so a lot
This
of
cannot
alarming
be
stuff.
solved by a hug, which is what ends it. Spoiler alert, it
Well,
gets
that's the
solved by
thing,
a
we
hug.
ended it very like, "Okay, this is resolved," and I was like, "Is that how child abuse works?"
Like, no. Uh, oh
I
yeah,
was
because
literally going, "Okay, so who can we put this little girl with to get her to safety?" Like, I was like, "Is she gonna go with these employees? Like, they don't know her." I couldn't figure out how they were gonna resolve it, and the answer was like, "Oh, the dad's just gonna, like, repent," and I'm like, "I guess that works, kind of, not really, kind of."
I don't whatever. We'll get there in a second.
Spo
So at this point, like all of the girls are kind of split up in their own little like side plots, right? So Serena is kind of like in her own room and like I think she's like taking a bath and like she's making Luna
Yes,
stay with her because she's freaked out. And then
that was cute.
Ami is now like, what's going on with this dynamic here? And then because I'm pretty sure she like stalks
Ray
them.
Yeah, it
Ray
was
is
weird. Yeah,
Ray
'cause
is
yeah, because
putting
Ami's gonna see the psychic shit abuse
yes.
going down,
Yeah.
and
And
Ray's
then
doing her exorcism stuff, which was
yeah, on
cool.
all the
Not
chairs
exorcism, but
at the dinner table, which I was like,
yeah,
"Great."
she puts those, like, labels, her little spiritual label things on the chairs to keep the ghosts away,
Yeah,
and then
and
the servants have decided to do some sort of exorcism themselves, but they say something kind of ominous like, "We've gotta do it, it's the time, we can't tell the guests," and so Sailor Moon thinks they're gonna, like, murder them or something, I don't know.
no, it's Ray who overhears it because she's down in the dining room, remember?
Oh.
And then she overhears them in the kitchen, so she's kind of like detective, like outside, like listening to
Yeah,
them. But then she doesn't tell anybody. She just kind of
yeah.
stays down there. And then so now we're up in so this is where I wrote, okay, dad needs therapy to work on his trauma because he's has sat his daughter back down in the weird oversized chair and is going through this whole monologue about how we're going to show all those people who said we were crazy that we didn't have psychic powers that we do. You have like the most psychic power. You show
Yeah.
them the biggest psychic
I think
power
he
ever.
implies that he's a psychic researcher and that she's a
Oh.
psychic and he's mad that people didn't so he's like a mad scientist, I guess, but with his daughter. We've seen this vibe before.
Yeah, this is like literally Sailor Saturn and her dad.
Really? Was that in Sailor
Yeah, wasn't he a
Saturn? Did they
mad
just repeat her?
scientist?
Purple eyes?
Mhm.
I can't remember Saturn at all, but I love that they were like, let's do that arc again, but with more detail.
Yeah, and like maybe it is Sailor Saturn, but like,
Mhm.
are purple eyes now just like a signifier of having a mad scientist parent?
I think there might be a signifier of psychic powers. Although I don't know if Saturn had psychic power. I don't know. It's been a long time.
Yeah, she has purple eyes for sure. I was obsessed with Sailor Saturn at one point.
I think I'm getting confused. I don't mean Sailor Saturn. I mean Sailor Pluto.
Sailor Pluto has like maroon eyes. Or green eyes.
Does she?
I think maroon.
Wait, which one has green hair? That's Pluto.
Yeah.
Okay. No, so I did mean Sailor Saturn. I'm getting confused. Yeah. Anyways,
Sailor Saturn's
we're really great. Guys, this is therapy. We don't have any expertise.
For ADHD people. So, okay.
There we go.
So he is in there dumping all of his trauma onto his daughter and forcing her to create like the biggest psychic ghost ever. Ami sees it and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, and then she's going to use the ghost to. He's going to use the ghost to chase away the guests that he doesn't want, which is like, I mean, vibe, I guess.
Yeah. So
does he push her? I can't remember.
I can't remember because she confronts him, but then I can't remember if
did she? I didn't remember.
She does come out and he's like, "What are you doing here?" or something like that. But then that might be when the ghost pops up. Yeah,
that was
the ghost might have. So the ghost's entire power is just like wind. Like it just.
Yeah, it appears to be some kind of rage spirit that's manifested from the daughter.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Sailor Moon has stumbled across the servants doing some sort of exorcism ritual that was pulling on cultural things that I didn't recognize. They had like a red staircasey display thing with all these weird little like creepy dolls and idols on it. Yeah. Candles, melted candles, and some like, and then they were like wearing like candles on their head, and there was a bunch of stuff happening that was like clearly Sailor Moon found very ominous.
Yeah. Well,
and I think that DiC would not have approved of.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any joke that they could make over the top of that or explaining that. The other thing is in the dub, so like again the new dub, they have them chanting "Eeny Meeny Miny Mo." I'm pretty sure that's probably not what they were chanting.
I don't think so. I don't remember what they were chanting, but I don't know. No, I would have remembered.
I was like, I don't think that's probably what it is. But I wonder if maybe like we were missing something culturally with the Japanese one, where like maybe they were chanting like nonsense or something, and so like that was the decision that they made for the English version.
Because I do feel like the Japanese was going for their kind of cutesy, and so they might have been like chanting like a nursery rhyme or something while they're trying to exorcise a ghost because they're
exactly.
By the way, we've said that they're in costume. Amy compliments their costume, which was the first time that they acknowledged that this was some sort of costume related to the hotel. Pension. But we do see at one point we do see the werewolf guy on the roof howling at the moon. So I'm like, I mean, is this a costume or are you just going above and beyond on your job? I don't know.
And then he goes, "Oh no, now it's nighttime again," because he's freaked out by the ghost. Yes. And I'm just now imagining, like, what if that was your job description? Like, let's assume that this is a costume. So this poor guy has to climb up onto the roof of a giant mansion on top of a cliff and howl at the moon every night.
I just want you to know that you said, what if that was your job description? And I just went on an amazing fantasy mind vacation where that was my job description and it was wonderful. I would do that job. Yes. My job description is be a werewolf.
Do you
absolutely. Sign me up.
Do you think they have good benefits and like insurance?
I mean, that's a good question. I think that all you really need is a good vet and some treats.
Then all the shit starts going bonkers in the like dining room. And like this was actually a really cool visual.
Oh, it was very cool.
Where like all of her like exorcism papers or whatever start
real fast.
Popping
in the
off.
Dining room we have, before you say, in the dining room we have Ray, Serena, and the 3 servants. And shit starts going crazy in there.
Yeah, so I can't remember why Serena came downstairs. I think maybe Luna left her or something and she was like alone. So she started coming downstairs because she's wondering where everybody is. Then she finds them in the dining room. So then all of a sudden, like all of the papers like break and like pop off of the chairs, and then the chairs rise into the air and start spinning around and going nuts.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool and scary, kind of. I would have been scared.
Yeah, and everybody's just making fun of Serena for being scared, and I'm glad that she and the servants bonded over how scary this was, because Ray and Ami and Luna are not taking this seriously. This is scary.
Yes. I think this is when the ghost comes at them and they decide to do their Sailor Moon transformations.
I think
Because they
Mercury.
do transform pretty
Oh.
shortly.
No, because first, so Ami's trying to deal with it. They don't transform until it starts attacking the father. Because
No, they transform before it attacks the father. Because Mercury then has to go try to wake the dude up. It attacks them first, and then it turns and attacks the father.
I think, yeah, okay, you're right.
And because they do the tiara and a couple things, and then Mercury...
Yeah, because they do the tiara on it. And then
So
Sailor
they do a
Mercury's trying to
group
wake her up.
transformation. They all transform. They try to fight it. The tiara won't hurt it. Mercury's run over to try to wake up the little girl, and she's talking to her and trying to wake her up. And that, I think that's when around then is when it turns and attacks the father. And they say something like, her desire to disobey her father has gotten so strong, it's out of control, or something like that, and that's when the father starts going, oh no, I was wrong. Which is, I guess, about the time you would have... It's hard to take your regrets seriously when you only regret them when, like, your daughter's trying to murder you.
Yeah. So in the English dub version, they just said rebel against her father. That was like, I think that's really the only difference so far.
Yeah, so a couple little wording things like that.
Yeah, and then Mercury's trying to wake her up, the little girl up, and she's going, "No, don't make me do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore." I know.
It's very messed up.
Yeah.
And then when she does wake up, the ghost still doesn't go away. And Mercury's like, can you stop the ghost? And she's like, it should have gone away when I woke up. And it's like, oh, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, Sailor Moon can't hurt the ghost. It's swarming around. The dad... I think this is when the dad has his dramatic, teary, like, no, I'm sorry. I think it actually attacks her, and the dad... I did like the dad tells her to run.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the dad does tell her to run, which was, like, the first time we've seen him clearly actually in some way care about her. And he says he's made a mistake. And he winds up, like going over her to protect her. He's huddled around her. The ghost is coming at them. And she, like, at the last minute, lunges out and stops the ghost, which was kind of sweet.
Yeah, with her power. She's
but
like,
also kind of fucked up.
And she yells for like a really long time. I noticed because the voice actor, it was so awkward. It's just like, no, like it went on for so long.
The voice actor was having trouble figuring out how to draw that out.
Yeah, and then it dissipates. And you know what I just realized? I mean, that's pretty much like here, I'll hold that thought for a second, ADHD moment. So she dissipates the ghost. He apologizes, of course, for like trying to force his trauma onto her, basically. And he admits that he knew that she did not want to do all this psychic work. And then after that, I don't think that there's anything that happens after that beyond them being at the beach the next day and then all playing together.
Yeah, they're really all cute. On the beach, and the little girl, instead of wearing all her weird Japanese robes, no offense to Japanese robes, but I felt like they were trying to like be creepy with them. She's now in a bright bathing suit and playing with them, and that was like really cute because we get to see her be like a normal little girl, which is what she said she wanted.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was on the beach, but he said something like, "Yeah, I think we're done for now." Yeah, so it was very cute.
I don't think they were necessarily Japanese robes. To me, they looked like just like cloak, like just like big cloaks they were wearing.
I kept calling her the little Grim Reaper child because she looked like a little Grim Reaper. So yeah, I don't know that I called them Japanese robes just because I was like, maybe there's something I don't recognize. But to my American brain, yeah, they were like some sort of Grim Reaper clothes. They were creepy.
Yeah. Somebody will correct
since everybody was dressed as creepy ghosts, I assume they were meant to be creepy.
Oh, good point. Yeah, so we end on the nice beach vacation, and there was no training at all that happened. And also, something I just realized, these people all know who these Sailor Scouts are now. Like, they know it's these three girls.
You're right. This is one of the few extra groups that's like, yeah, Sailor Scouts. And again, not our only, as far as I know, only non-Negaverse episode.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was very weird.
I don't. Yeah, it has to be like a holiday one. Maybe I should have bothered to like look that up, but I did not.
And because it's not DiC, we're not going to get a Sailor Says. I've just realized that.
Yeah, but we can make our own. We can guess what they would have made.
I like that. Okay.
So I think
Do
they would have.
we want to guess that?
If they had translated. So let's think about. Okay, I just want to put us into a meeting at DiC, the meeting where they're determining whether or not to translate this episode into the dub. This is the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we all have to pitch like our ideas or something, or like bounce off of each other. And so I'm thinking, like, so some of the concepts that we would bring up in the meeting, right? So thank you all so much for joining. I mean, it's a Monday. You have to be here. This is our jobs. So we have a couple concerns with this episode. Number one, the child abuse. Number two, the weird, not weird, no offense. Sorry for saying weird. Actually, they don't care. This is the 90s. It's DiC. They don't give a shit about cultural implications. We've got some like exorcism stuff, like spooky exorcism religion stuff that is not white. It's not like Christian fundamentalist values.
The Christian moms are going to be mad about it.
Yeah.
They don't want their kids putting candles on their heads and chanting.
Yeah. So that's two issues that we have. The third issue, which we don't actually care about, is that this doesn't seem to fit into the plot, but we've never cared about that ever. So
well, so what they have cared about is early on, at least, was like trying to rush ahead to get to like the action-y ones, like and to get their toy line going. Because I did read a really interesting article that was saying how this was Sailor Moon was put out when the idea of this type of TV show and anime, of course, was very like, that's not going to work. But what was really popular was Power Rangers and like some of these like, and so they were like, can we do a girl version that's all like a fighting squad that we can sell toys of?
Yeah.
I don't feel like the toy line ever super took off. I don't remember.
They never had merch because we would have bought it.
Right? But they did have some merch, but
I remember like
the whole idea of like they were trying to pitch it so it would be appealing to boys and girls. So they were really leaning hard in the American version on more of the like fighting angle and like sort of superhero-y power squad angle, which is I don't think their pitch worked very well, and I think they did redirect at some point because I feel like everyone was like Sailor Moon is a girl thing. But
yeah, although a lot of
that was the initial idea.
Also grew up on it, so.
Well, I know my brothers did too, but we'll have to get them on the show sometime and talk about it.
Yeah, we do need to do that.
It was definitely considered socially frowned upon to like Sailor Moon if you were a boy.
Genders only watch certain shows. You gotta prove your gender before you're allowed to watch each show.
Yeah.
So for our two main issues, we're now in the DiC meeting.
Back in the DiC meeting.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm just this weirdly knowledgeable
thank you for that information. I really resent that you have shit all over my presentation from yesterday about how we should gender this. All of my ideas about the Power Rangers you just dumped on.
Yeah.
So let me see how you're going to solve these issues that I've brought up. To recap again, child abuse ? And religion. How are we going to translate these?
I would argue that I'm not sure DiC does care about showing child abuse. Like, I could be wrong, but I'm not really sure they give a shit. Like, they don't want to show violence on the screen. Well, sure. Like, they'll cut away from, like, a punch, or, like, they didn't cut away from bathing suits, but, that kind of stuff. But, like, I don't know. They've shown all sorts of weird stuff that they're like, yeah, this is fine. We're not going to think about the deeper implications of this.
So do you think, so for, like, the scenes where he's, like, hulking over his daughter and she's crying, What should we change any of the words that he's using? Should we?
Good point. I think if they had done it, they would have maybe toned some of that down a little bit. But I don't know how you could because the visuals are really a lot
It's
of it.
pretty creepy. And then like for the religion stuff, I keep calling it religion stuff.
That
But it's
was
like,
so here's how I think they would have
yeah,
fixed that. So, and by religion we mean that when they did the exorcism and
yeah,
there were just some cultural stuff that was going on. I think they would have cut as much of it out as possible.
mhm,
But then they still have to explain because there's at least a couple scenes where these people are in costumes and you'd have to explain them. And I think they would have done something like the ghosts can be driven off by wearing candles on your head. And maybe if we cut a potato, like they would have made up some new fake superstitions. Like I heard potatoes will scare away, monsters under the bed. And they would have just added a bunch of nonsense stuff like that and made it very silly and
yeah,
clearly not at all. And just played on like the servants being silly and stupid.
yeah. I think they would have played up their voices for sure. Like especially the werewolf guy. Like he probably would have been going like
They might even not have said like it'll scare away the ghosts. So like I'm gonna wear candles on my head so that I'll never be in the dark, and like they would have done
oh
a
my
bunch of
god,
stuff like that.
that's a good one. So I'll never be in the dark. They say that fire scares away ghosts, so I just like to keep fire on my person at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's what they would have done.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think they would have completely cut the scene of them in the kitchen with their altar thing. Like, I think that would just be gone.
Yeah, that part, and then just throw in some lines about the other stuff.
Yeah. Do you think they would have explained the costumes more, like on the nose?
No. I think we would have been like, let's lean into it. This will really market well with our American Scooby Doo loving audience.
Yeah. I think that they should have
I don't
unmasked
know.
people though. Masks off.
That would have been amazing. They just
I
try to unmask them and
the last
can't
note
get
that
the
I
costume off.
the last note that I had was, and I'm still confused. So like I think that there's something, I think this is left up to debate actually. Is are these people supposed to be creatures or not? Because they mention the
I know,
costumes.
but we never really quite. I agree. I kind of thought for a while, I was like, I think they might actually just literally be like monsters of some sort, and that's the joke. But
Yeah.
so I'm gonna read you something from the wiki.
Okay.
This is the Sailor Moon wiki. It says there were a few things that I know. One, the house. I remember this. The house was called the Adams House. Sorry, the mansion pension was called the Adams House, like the Adams family.
I wrote that down because I was like, wait, I want to see the Addams Family crossover with this.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention, and I'm mentioning this just because it might be relevant. They said the monsters are likely a reference to The Munsters, a TV series of the 60s. And I'm utterly unfamiliar with that TV series, but it's possible there's some references there that we are not getting.
No, I get that. I used to confuse growing up because I'd watched both growing up, and I used to confuse those
Mm-hmm.
two shows together because they were like kind of the same in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of goth with like little monsters. And I think they did have a crossover actually at one point.
Love it.
I could maybe see that being a nice reference.
This was the fourth of 6 episodes to be left out of DiC. I think really just because it was an extra.
Yeah.
Mm, I don't know why they think this is a trivia. Sometimes wikis will just have trivia where you're like, what?
Yeah.
It says Usagi mentions that they should have invited Naru, that's Molly, despite the fact that Naru was taken to a hospital in the previous episode due to her energy being drained.
I forgot about that.
But I love that they're like, this is clearly a plot hole. I'm like, I don't think it is.
No, but I think it is because remember, because last episode we even talked about it on this podcast where we were like, it'll be interesting to see how they handle Naru / Molly when we come back because this was the first time that she hasn't just gotten like that they actually succeeded in stealing all of that energy.
Yeah. Well, the answer is they're not going to handle it. They're just going to ignore it. We're going to cut to a vacation.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another thing. These are the international dub titles, and I thought they were interesting. So they in Brazil, it was the summer, the sea, girls, and ghosts too. In European Portuguese, it was the summer, the sea, and girls. So they were like, no one
No
gives a shit
ghosts.
about ghosts. We're gonna
Just
just make
girls.
that out. Look, we know what you're here for. And then in French, it was summer, the sea, the youth, and as a bonus, ghosts. And I like that one. That's my favorite.
A bonus.
German went for the haunted house.
Okay.
And then Italian was apparently making up for European Portuguese because they just did the ghost. So they were like, screw all that other stuff. You're only here for the ghost.
Italian was just as efficient as German. They're like, it's haunted house. There we go.
Yeah. And I love the one group was like summer, sea, girls, and the other group was like ghost.
Yeah, like one
and
country.
then American
really
was like, or I guess Japanese was like, girls didn't need to be in there. I guess they said youth.
Yeah.
Youth does. I guess they decided to translate youth as girls instead of youth because that is kind of a weird.
I wish I could speak Japanese to know if technically the title in Japanese maybe was girls.
That's true. Or like that youth has an implication of something or other. Young girls.
I just love the idea of like, who are they trying to appeal to? Like older men? Because they're going to watch this show and be very disappointed, I think. Like, just go to Pornhub if that's what you want.
I mean, I will say that, like, I felt like I understood what the episode was going to be about from the title, so good job.
Yeah, very effective title.
Yes.
Well, shall we end it on what we think the sailor says?
Yeah. Okay.
I think the sailor says if DiC was going to do it, would be always make sure to print out your directions from mapquest.com.
Sometimes you go a cool place, but it can be dangerous if you get lost. Always use a good online service, and
sponsored by mapquest.com.
You know what? I don't think online stuff, I guess it did exist. It was the 90s. It barely. I don't know they had that. Do you remember when you would like go and you would print like a list of like written, that was wild. I flashed back to that.
That was the 90s. Yeah, you had to print it out and it was like a map and like a turn-by-turn direction.
Yeah. And it was just like turn left on this road, turn right. And so you'd have this list that you were following. And if you got off of it, you were lost again. You're never going to find your way back.
Yeah, Gen Z all missed out.
MapQuest.
Yeah.
My mind, I'm okay.
Yeah, what do you think it would have been?
So the thematic ideal thing would have been something about like, well, hey, you could get into abuse. That would have been great, but you're not going to do that. Like, if your dad does this, that's concerning. That's too dark.
No, they would never touch that. That's too serious. That's too on the nose.
They could have gone for the, Amy and her whole theme about like, sometimes people push you to work too hard, but it's important to have fun and have friends too, like have a good work-life balance or whatever. But here's the thing, DiC never goes for the actual moral of the story. They pick something random. So I think they would pick something like, ghosts can be pretty scary, huh? But it's okay, ghosts aren't real. If you ever feel scared by a ghost, try lighting some candles and a nightlight and have a nice warm glass of cocoa. I've murdered Audrey.
And put them on your head.
Spending time with friends can also cheer you up and make you see there's nothing to be scared of. That's the power of friendship. And then Luna would say something mean.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're not scared, huh? Then how come... I couldn't think of something. I'm not mean enough. I couldn't think of something mean.
Serena, you shouldn't be lighting anything on fire.
There we go.
Burn your gun heads off.
That's Luna. There we go.
Yeah. Ass.
So what is our next episode? It's going to be... Hang on, I've changed my thing. An animated mess Or protect the children's dreams, friendship through anime. So we're getting a little meta here.
Interesting. Do you think Facebook's going to sue us for using the term meta?
Let's not. No, we're not talking about
Facebook. Sue them for using the word meta.
Exactly. Sorry, I just saw an episode title that says Nephrite dies for love, and I was like, what the fuck?
What?
So we're gonna have a Nephrite funeral episode in another couple.
We'll have to do it up for him, just like we did for Jedi.
Absolutely. I mean, I will be less sincere about it, but
I know, right? Like, this guy's giving us way too much startup pickup artist energy.
Okay, what's the cliche where like the grieving widow is in like an elegant fur robe with like a glass of champagne because she's celebrating? Like, that's gonna be me.
That's what you need to dress up. Yes. We need to dress up for Nephrite's funeral. We need to dress up in our best, like, oh, come on in, officers. I don't know what could have possibly happened outfit.
That's the episode right before Jupiter, so I'm excited. Okay, so we got a couple more, but next episode, anime.
Yay.
Anime.
Yep. So, well, see y'all next week.
You guys have a beautiful week. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll be back for more therapy. 7 days.
Bye.
No, since we just watched a ghost episode, that was very ominous. 7 days.
In 7 days. We're coming for you. Bye.